In a world where remakes are inevitable, Hollywood will never stop making them.
Inevitable.
What's happening, guys? Back at you with another video. So we're going to be taking a look at some of the remakes that we've been getting in Hollywood. And basically this is going to be a ranking in a tier list form. I'm sure a lot of you have been around long enough to know that remakes are inevitable in Hollywood. We're going to keep getting them for foreseeable future. And really, some of them, I would say some of them are not as bad as people will say. Some of them definitely are bad, but there's some that are actually kind of watchable. So we're going to be ranking some remakes of Hollywood movies in tier list form. Of course, I got different tiers. Now I will say that none of the Disney live action remakes that are, remade from animated movies will be on here. I did make a whole separate video where I ranked all of the live action Disney remakes. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link to that video down below. Now I will say I have not seen every single remake there's ever been, and there's probably going to be a couple remakes that I might leave out just so this video won't go too long. But without further ado, let's see how these remakes actually rank on a tier list. So getting into the first remake, we actually do have a Disney movie that did not rank because it's definitely from a live action remake already. Then that's going to be Freaky Friday from 2003. This one stars Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis as mother and daughter. And this was a fun movie to watch as a kid. I remember watching it quite a few times when I was a kid. It was one of those movies that were kind of in rotation. I haven't seen it in quite many years, and I never saw the original Freaky Friday movie. I don't remember when the original one came out, but it was definitely a while back. But when it comes to this one's a fun watch. You know, you got Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan playing mother-daughter. They have a good chemistry and good dynamic between them. And it was just a lot of fun to watch as a kid. Like I said, I haven't seen it in, recent years, so I wouldn't say if it holds up or not. But this was a fun little movie, so I'll go ahead and put it into the B tier. We get to another movie, and that is going to be The Mummy from 1999, starring Brandon Fraser. This one is a lot of fun. I really enjoy this movie. This is one of those other remakes that where I have not seen the original, but this remake I think is definitely pretty solid. It's a fun adventure film set in Egypt. You know, you got Brandon Fraser in a starring role, so it's a lot of fun. You got a good cast going on here too. You got some good action going on in here. Like I said, it's just a fun adventure on par with one of like the Indiana Jones movies or other adventure type movies like that. So this was definitely a lot of fun. I remember watching it a lot as a kid. It's been a couple years since I rewatched it, but I still remember having a lot of fun with this. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and put it into the A tier. And we get to It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. I'm combining both of these, so it's going to be the average score of this one. When it comes to the It movies that came out a couple years ago, I remember I watched them for the first time a few years ago, right after the second one came out. And really, with these ones, they weren't as horrific, or they weren't as scary as I thought they were. I was kind of going into them expecting a little more from them, but honestly they weren't too scary or anything like that. And they're fine. They're good. I know a lot of people hate the second one. I'm not as against this the second one, but their course is definitely not on par with the first one. I never did see the 1990s original with Tim Curry. So it's definitely on my watch list to check out. But I am interested in the upcoming show that's coming out, where it's going to be like a sort of prequel to this one. So I might check these movies out again whenever the show gets closer to watching. I might check these ones out again. But with these ones, I thought they were fine. They're solid. I don't typically rewatch them. I only saw them the one time, but they're not ones I rewatch a whole lot or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and between the average of them, I'm gonna have to go ahead and put them into the B tier. And next up, we have Dune Part One from 2021. And this one is a most recent rewatch. I actually watched this one for the first time a few days before the Dune Part Two came out. And honestly, this one is good. I really like this one. I know a lot of people are kind of mixed on this one. A lot of people didn't really like it, or they found it boring. And there's a few people out there that find it very interesting. I'm one of the people that found it very interesting and kind of compelling, the way they're able to set up this world. Uh, it's very interesting. I like the characters. It's definitely slow paced at times, and it definitely is building this world up to get us to the part two, and where I'm assuming more action comes up. A lot of people have been calling this part two so much better than the first one, even saying it's a masterpiece. So I'm expecting that it's going to be a good movie. But with this one, I thought it's a solid movie. It's a good watch, I think. And honestly, I was interested in this world that they're setting up with this whole first movie. So honestly, I'm going to go ahead and put this one into the A tier. And we get to our most recent remake with Roadhouse that just came out a few days ago. You got Jake Gyllenhaal, the starring role. Conor McGregor, a nice little fun addition to the movie also. But this one is based on, of course, the remake from the 1980s, where that one starred Patrick Swayze. A lot of people were definitely against this movie, who are nostalgic for the first Roadhouse movie. I don't really have nostalgia towards the first Roadhouse movie. I remember watching it maybe at least one time when I was a kid, but I did recently rewatch it, of course, for this new Roadhouse movie, and it's still a pretty good, solid movie. With this new movie of the remake with Jake Gyllenhaal, I think this is a solid movie. It's a lot of fun action going on, kind of a classic old school throwback action feeling to it, and it's a lot of fun to watch. You just get this basically similar story beats that they do, but they do something. They do a little bit of different stuff, and they put their own little style on things. So with this one, at least it's fun. It has some good action going on, so at least I will put this one into the B tier. And we get to a movie that I actually didn't even know this was a remake, but I know it's a pretty old movie, but they had different other remakes after this one. But we're going back to one of the original remakes, and that's going to be The Wizard of Oz from 1939. Now, this is a movie that I used to watch a lot as a kid whenever it came on TV or popped on TV. When you're like flipping through channels and all that, whenever it came on, you see it on the TV while flipping through channels. I usually just sit down and watch wherever part it was at. I usually just typically would sit down and watch. This was one of those movies I used to watch a lot as a kid and have fun with it. I think it's a classic movie that needs great recognition, and it's just a lot of fun. You get this story of this girl that goes to a mystical, magical realm and just goes on this adventure with these characters, and you have a lot of fun with the movie. It's a really good movie, honestly. It definitely has been quite some years since I've seen it, but I do need to check it out. Need to rewatch it. We are getting that Wicked movie that's based on a Broadway show later on this year, so it definitely is maybe a good time for a rewatch to check it out, see if it still holds up. But from my memory, at least from watching it as a kid, I thought it was a lot of fun. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it into the A tier. And we have another movie of this one is called Love Don't Cause a Thing. This is from 2003, and I believe it's a remake from an 80s movie that starred Patrick Dempsey. I'm not 100% sure, but this I haven't actually seen that original one. But this remake is good. It's good. It's not a bad movie or anything like that. I remember this is kind of the same situation as Wizard of Oz, where I remember watching this movie a lot when I was younger, and you're flipping through channels, it comes on. It's an interesting enough movie to check out and just watch. You got Nick Cannon in here, you got Christina Milian in here, which I gotta say she's looking pretty good in this movie. But nonetheless, it's a solid watch. I think it's a solid watch. It has a interesting story going on. You got Steve Harvey in here, who's pretty funny. He plays the dad in this movie, and it's just it's a solid watch. Nothing. It's not great or anything like that, but it's a solid watchable movie. So I would put it probably into at least the probably a C tier. I'll put it in the C tier. Almost reaches the B tier, but I might put it in like the C tier. And we get Cheaper by the Dozen from 2003. I know there's one that came out recently. I never watched that one. I didn't really have an interest in watching it. But this 2003 version is the one that came out when I was younger, basically when I was a kid. And I remember watching this one. This was a very fun movie to watch. You get a lot of familiar kid actors in here, like Hilary Duff and Tom Welling and all that. And you get Steve Martin and Bonnie Hunt in here as the parents, which is very fun. So this is a fun overall movie that I used to watch a lot as a kid. Just the same thing, flipping through channels. It comes on, you sit down and watch it wherever it's at, and just have fun with it. Very interesting movie. You have this big old family with 12 kids, so gets very interesting at times to see how this family is just working together, or just interacting with each other, and just seeing the shenanigans they get into. It's just a lot of fun, especially when you're a kid. You're just watching this. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into the B tier. And we get to Child's Play from 2019. Definitely, this one's a remake of the original Child's Play from the 80s. So with this one, I think a lot of people are against this one. I know a lot of people are against this one, but honestly, I think this one's at least a solid enough watchable remake of the original Child's Play. I love the original Child's Play movies with Chucky, and remember watching this one and wondering what can they do with it. Why is there a remake of this one? I think they do enough to have an interesting concept and dealing with, being able to remake this movie in today's time, where they add the style and add the things of today's time, where they're using like AI and apps in this one. And I think it's a solid enough concept to where it's like, you have this doll that is basically run on apps and AI and all that, but decides to sort of take over and stuff. And then this one plays out a little bit differently than the original one, where Chucky in this one is just basically trying to be a protector. He's trying to be friends with the kid that's in here, and basically he's just trying to do that, be a protector and be a friend to the kid that's in here. So it's a definitely interesting concept in the way they're able to remake this movie for today's times in a way. I think it's solid. Like I said, I think it's a solid watchable movie. I definitely prefer the original, of course, but I think this one's at least a solid watchable remake, and I think I'll go ahead and put it into the B tier. So we have Footloose from 2011. Now I remember a few years back, I actually watched the original Footloose from the 80s for the first time, and after that I watched this remake of Footloose for the first time. So I basically watched both of them for the first time in that day, basically doing like a comparison, seeing which one I felt I kind of geared towards a little bit more. And this might be a hot take, but honestly, I kind of prefer the 2011 version. I thought it was very interesting. It was very for the times that we are now, or at least back then, 10 years ago. I thought it was very interesting in the way they're able to incorporate some music from today's time and just the kind of story that was going on with that. And I'm not saying the 80s version was bad or anything. I still kind of like it, and I think it's still pretty solid with Kevin Bacon. And of course, you have the iconic Footloose theme song. But I think this one does just a little bit more for me. I don't know. It's just a little bit more. It's not super rewatchable. I won't say that. I'm open to a rewatch on it, but like, it's not one I really gravitate to come back to a whole lot, to rewatch. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and put at least the C tier. I think it's just slightly below the B tier for me. And we get to Rob Zombie's Halloween, the remake of the original 1970s Halloween. So this movie came out in 2007. It was definitely a big outrage for this one. I remember hearing people about it, like, why are we getting a remake and all that, to a classic horror movie. And this one is very interesting. They do the way that Rob Zombie films this one. He dives deeper into the psyche of Michael Myers, of course, and seeing what were some of the reasons that turned him into this force that kills and all that. And it was very interesting. Kind of, there's concepts in here that are interesting, and seeing what makes Michael Myers tick in a way. But it's definitely not one that I go back to rewatch. I, of course, definitely prefer the original Halloween from 1978. And this one is just solid. It's a solid rewatch. I only rewatch it now and then, or at least when I'm watching the Halloween movies. I feel like rewatching all the Halloween movies, I'll rewatch this one, of course, because it's just in there if I'm just binging through them. But definitely on its own, I don't typically rewatch it. I might check it out here and there every few years or so, but it's not definitely one I rewatch. So I'm probably going to, I won't say it's quite slightly B tier, it's like slightly below B tier for me. I might just go ahead and put this one to the C tier for now. And we get to the 2010 version of Karate Kid. Now, I love the Karate Kid from the 80s. I love the original series. So when they came out with this one, I was kind of interested in seeing what can they do with it. And with this one, I think at first I was definitely against it. When I remember watching it, I was being like, "Oh, I don't like that one. I don't like this one. I like the original one. Why they remake it?" And all that stuff that was going on. Of course, a lot of people are definitely against this one. But honestly, I remember rewatching it a couple years after that and thinking, you know what, this is at least solid. It's a solid remake. It's watchable. They do some things with it. Of course, there's always that that thing about why they call it Karate Kid when he's not really learning karate in the movie. But I think with the addition of Jackie Chan in here playing the mentor role, I think it's very compelling. It's very interesting with having him as the mentor role. I mean, Jaden Smith, he does what he can. He's not a bad actor or anything like that, but it's at least a solid relationship between him and Jackie Chan's character, to where he's mentoring this kid, he's looking after this kid, and he's trying to teach him how to defend himself and all that. So I think this one's at least a solid watch. Of course, I definitely prefer the original, but this one's at least a solid watch. So I think I'll go ahead and put it into the B tier. And we get to The Longest Yard from 2005. This is an Adam Sandler movie, and I never saw the original one. I believe the original one does have Burt Reynolds in it also, and as this one does as well. But with this one is actually one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies. It's funny. If you're a wrestling fan, this one would definitely gear towards you because there's a lot of wrestlers in this movie. So it's fun to see them on screen, just be in this movie. But honestly, this one is a fun movie. It's a fun movie. It's one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies. One of my favorite football movies. So it's one I typically do rewatch ever so often because I just enjoy it overall. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the B tier. This one definitely is a high B tier for me. All right, we get to one that I definitely do not like, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
This one is, whew, man. This one is definitely not good. I definitely saw, when watching this movie, at least a couple years back recently, I rewatched it again. It had potential. I think it had potential. There's signs in there, just little hints, little signs that this movie could have had potential to be at least a solid remake of the original. But the execution is so bad in this. You know, you got the main character Nancy, who you just don't like. She's not like, you don't really gear towards her as a protagonist. You know, you got Jackie Earle Haley, who doesn't necessarily do a bad job. Of course, Robert Englund is top dog on that. I don't even know if anybody will ever come close to him. But Jackie Earle Haley doesn't necessarily give a bad performance. It's just the material that he's given, really, I think, that does it. And overall, this was just kind of bad execution. I thought they had potential. Like, there's little hints with potential in there, but it's just bad execution overall. And this one is just definitely not good. I definitely don't rewatch it unless I was doing like a ranking video or something. And I just don't go back to it ever, honestly. You know, I prefer the original way more. This one is just bad. So I'm gonna have to put this one into like probably the D tier, I guess. All right, we get to Planet of the Apes from 2001. This one's the one starring Mark Wahlberg, and I believe it was directed by Tim Burton, if I'm not mistaken. This one was actually the first ever Planet of the Apes movie I ever saw. At least the one I remember. I remember seeing clips and parts of the other one, of the older versions, like a little bit after this one. But this was my first introduction to the whole concept of Planet of the Apes. And when I was a kid, I used to watch this one a few times. I didn't rewatch it a whole lot, but I used to watch it a couple times here and there. And I didn't think it was a bad movie or anything like that. But going back on it, it's definitely not great by any means. This one is definitely lower tier. Luckily, we did get some great Planet of the Apes movies down the line with, you know, the trilogy that we recently got. Where, of course, we're getting Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming up pretty soon. But this one is, I haven't watched it in many years. I don't remember the last time I watched it. And I don't remember it being that great or anything like that. So, with that being said, I think I might put this one... might put this one into the D tier also. I don't think it was that great. This one might be like slightly below the C tier, I would say. And we get to Red Dawn from 2010. This one was very interesting. This one stars Chris Hemsworth on his high of, you know, playing Thor, I believe. Or it might have came out before Thor or after Thor. One of those. It was one of those years that was like around the time of Thor when it came out. I remember Josh Peck being in this movie and a couple other people in this movie. I never saw the original, so I can't really compare or anything like that. This one I think is a solid watch. You know, it's solid. It's not very good or anything like that, but it has at least it's at least a solid watch. I've only seen it probably twice, like around the time it came out, and probably like a couple years after that. So I haven't really rewatched it recently or anything like that. But I remember it being like a somewhat solid watch. It was okay, you know. I never really went back to it, but you know, it seems like a solid watch. So I'll go ahead and put it into the C tier. And we get to the Ten Commandments. I didn't really know this one was a remake also, but apparently it is. This one is from the 1950s, I believe, and it stars Charlton Heston. I remember watching this one a lot as a kid, especially during the Easter time. They used to show it on TV around the Easter season, and I remember every year that we get the family gathered together, and we'll just sit down and watch it. You know, honestly, it's pretty good. I haven't rewatched it in many years, though. But I remember just watching it as a kid and just honestly being interested in it and just the way that they're able to tell this biblical story with the Ten Commandments and all that. And it was just interesting to me as a kid. and all that. I just remember watching it on TV because they used to show it a lot. I remember just watching it around Easter season, just watching it with the family and all that, and just being interested in it. I remember it being like a pretty good movie and all that. So I would at least say this one is. I don't know if I put exactly an A tier, but I might put it into the B tier at least. Or, I remember just watching it as a kid. And it was definitely pretty good. And we get to The Wolfman from 2010. This one is starring Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins and Emily Blunt. I did recently rewatch this one just to see if it does hold up still. I remember, just in general, I like werewolf movies, so I wanted to at least rewatch this. This was already on my rewatch list to check out even before I had the idea for this video, because I just haven't seen it in a very long time. I just wanted to rewatch it, and after rewatching it, I think it's a solid movie. A lot of people were saying that this one was definitely not good. I never saw the original, so I can't really compare it to that. But as a movie on its own, I think it's a solid watch. Definitely some wonky CGI in a couple spots here and there, but I think it's at least a solid watch. I think the werewolf design, at least for being a wolf and a man, I think it's at least solid. It's not great, but it's a solid design at least. And I just remember, just watching this movie, just I enjoy it at least enough to watch it. I think it's a solid, watchable movie. So I would at least probably put it into the B tier. And we get to the final movie on this list, and that's going to be Yours, Mine, and Ours from 2000. This one stars Dennis Quaid and Rene Russo and a bunch of other kid actors that were big at that time, like Drake Bell, Miranda Cosgrove, a couple other ones here and there. Danielle Panabaker, I remember, was in this movie also. So if you were like a kid at that time, this was like a movie made for you, because you just get a bunch of these child actors that were so big at that time. And I remember watching this one a lot as a kid. This was definitely one that was along the lines of like Cheaper by the Dozen. You have this big family, or basically these two people who meet up with each other, and they have families of their own. They combine the families together into one big house. So you get a bunch of crazy accidents, crazy shenanigans, insane things going on with these two families interacting with each other, and it's just a lot of fun. I remember watching this movie a lot as a kid, and this was one of those movies that was in the rewatch rotation that we used to watch a lot. So I remember just watching this movie a lot as a kid. I haven't rewatched it in many years, but I remember it being just fun, and just a fun watchable movie that you have fun with, and you could be able to see some of the child actors that were big at that time come out in this movie, and it was just a lot of fun to check out. So I will at least put this one into the B tier. All right, so that is going to do it for the remakes I'm going to rank in this video. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on these remakes. What are some of the remakes that I left out that you think should have been on this list? Like I said, this is not every single remake that I've ever seen. There's definitely some ones that I've seen before, but I just didn't want the video to go too long. And there's some ones on here that I have only seen probably one time and haven't seen them in such a long time, so I can't really talk about them, or I don't remember them as well. But this is just generally some of the remakes that I watched, or at least have some memory of watching them, and could be able to talk about them. So definitely let me know down in the comments below if you happen to have some favorite remakes. What are some of yours? But that's going to do it all for this video. Hope y'all all enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe and turn notifications on so you know I post another video. Hope y'all have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next one.